it was my manager. I was excited about something. And I went to his desk and I said his name and I was excited because we had won something. And he literally turned around in fear, like he was about to hit me.
Welcome to being Black.
Alicia, what does it take to get to a point where you open to a white person and connection?
After you've been called the N-word by your classmate in the 7th grade, after you've overheard your teachers try to figure out how to detract you as an honor student, after you've grown up with all these things, your spirit there was a woman that I had worked with. She wasn't my manager, but she was the manager of a friend of mine. And she was treating my friend differently than the other people on the team. And because my friend had rubbed her the wrong way. And a lot of times the rub the wrong way is rooted in some unconscious bias based on race, because we carry these things with us. And the way I knew the woman was carrying this thing is because she told a story about these people came to her house and she was afraid of them. And mind you, it was 2 small Black women. So she shows me the Ring camera and she's like, I was going to call the police. In an error, this was before George Floyd, we were still in the office, but it was still a time that you should know that you should not call the police on Black people in the South, particularly. And so knowing that this woman carries this thing with her, and I was like, wait, you were afraid of these? You could take them, like if they tried, and they were ringing the doorbell trying to sell some candy or something. And it just was so benign, but in her mind, she saw danger. Now, is she racist? I don't know. But has she been taught things, the stereotypes, the things in this country? We've all been indoctrinated with this crap. And so when I go in the workplace, I have to operate from a place where I'm aware that this is happening for all people, and I've got to figure out how to be successful despite it, because I am going to be subjected to it. Because I am a Black woman in a large body. I literally have had a coworker, I was excited about something. Well, it was my manager. I was excited about something. And I went to his desk and I said his name and I was excited because we had won something. And he literally turned around in fear, like he was about to hit me.
Welcome to being Black.
And it's just like, I'm not a fighter. I'm litigious. So like, I'm not going to fight you at all. I have no upper body strength.
You haul their asses in the court.
Yeah,
I believe in that. I believe in a good lawsuit.
My face is too pretty to fight. Like, I'm not doing it. And so I just went to my desk and cried. So there's so many different instances, and I won't go on, but like, it's kind of one of those things, once you're very aware, like after you've been called after you've been called the N-word by your classmate in the 7th grade, after you've overheard your teachers try to figure out how to detract you as an honor student, after you've grown up with all these things, your spirit gives you discernment. Because it really is this person for me or are they against me? Are they in my corner or are they not? And then you just understand that sometimes they don't even realize that what they're doing. It's so ingrained.
What do you think about that, Randy, her response?
What I was thinking about is, in some ways, in some ways, I wonder whether you might shut yourself off from all the people who aren't like that because of your initial reaction, because of your experience, you know, that it is your experience and you've been through it. But does that in some ways, you know, make you so much more cautious around others, and then you wind up not experiencing people who are different than that, that are white?
That's the fight in the workplace, definitely. Because you got to understand, in the workplace, there's more dynamics at play than just race. Like there's sexism, there's ableism, there's all the dynamics of the social dynamics, but then also there's just the politics of cutthroat people trying to, you know, and people thinking it's actual competition, which is hilarious. And so it's a battlefield and it's a game. It's a chessboard. And so I think all of us are sacrificing human connection in certain spheres like work because of it, because of the dynamics at play, the capitalism in our country that breeds, you know, capitalism and racism are, you know, incestuous and insidious together.
And they're tied.
They're tied very much so.
Because we were bought and sold, and they made too much money. Too much.
Most of the commercial banks, you know, today, JP Morgan, Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, all of those banks are in existence because of slavery. So we are so, yeah, we are in the mud of this, and it's not until we admit that and look to all be different, we're gonna stay in the mud of it.
Alicia, what does it take to get to a point where you open to a white person and connection? So, you know, the way Andre put it was, you know, these experiences breed cynicism. There is this response or reaction or approach that is very much like what Andre described to me too, which is, listen, I have goals. I have to know that bias is out there. And so I need to learn how to navigate this world, assuming that there's going to be bias out there, and how am I going to deal with it? Right. And that makes sense to me, you know, as I shared to Andre and this, you know, Randy might connect with you a little bit. My grandparents went through the Holocaust. And my grandfather told me very early on that he didn't want non-Jewish people in his home. And knowing his background, even though in my heart of hearts that hurt me, right? Because I had people who I trusted in my life who were not Jewish, you know, who I wanted him to know. You know, it's not like he had animosity toward. He's like, I have business relationships. I have transactional relationships. But to have someone in my home, having gone through what he had gone through, I could not understand that feeling that he brought. So that's just a quick background on understanding kind of, you know, he was navigating life. In fact, you know, I didn't share this with Andre previously, but he had a point in his life where he felt so guilty about not carrying on the traditions of Judaism because he was just so focused on getting by, right? And navigating this world as a Jewish Holocaust survivor in America, that he just even put aside his ways, right? And came back to it later with a lot of guilt that he carried for most of his life, if not all of his life. At the same time, you know, to kind of Randy's question, there is the potential for connection. You don't know who's going to be who and what biases they carry or not carry. What gets you to a point, or how does the breakthrough happen where you can find connection beyond the cynicism that Andre was commenting on?
For me, I've prayed this prayer many times. God, bring me the people in my life you want me to help, right? And I don't care who they are. I think the context matters when I meet people. So my friend Trisha is white, and she's a dear friend of me. We have yet to meet in person. She's coming out here to visit me.
Really?
Plane ticket has been purchased. So she's coming to LA to visit. She lives in Pennsylvania. And we met when we were doing an online course a marketing course, and we're both entrepreneurs, and we just have the best conversations. She lets me be myself. I can say whatever I want, however I want. I try to be cognitive of things I say, though.
Like I do with Todd.
Yes. And then
Well, see how I get with Todd.
and she's just a delightful human. And she's made me realize, she's reignited my passion to diversify my personal friend group.
Mhm.
But one thing I tell my coaching clients is you have to give people the benefit of the doubt. And so I really try when I'm at work to give people the benefit of the doubt. So I feel my feelings because I know where they come from. I'm very conscious, and I know my ego is trying to protect me. But then I also say, okay, but that's a human being. How do I give them the benefit of the doubt? I think what's fatiguing sometimes for me and other people of color in the workplace is that it often feels like a mandate that we give everybody the benefit of the doubt, and it's taxing when we don't feel that back, or we don't get that back. And so now I work to create psychological safe spaces with my colleagues. And so now I've gotten very comfortable with being very honest and bold, but also I know that's a part of my game in corporate. And so in that honesty, if we're having these real conversations about how I feel as a Black woman and how I need psychological safety, and then if you have an issue with that or you deny me that, that's documented, and that becomes a bigger problem and conversation. And again, it's something my attorney handles. So again, I don't know if cynicism will ever go away in the context of work, because it's corporate. I think everybody, if you're at a certain level in your career, I'm an executive, I'm a marketing executive. And so you need to lawyer up. I don't care who you are. But I know that there's a lot of things that happen to me because of how I show up and the package I show up in. And that has everything to do with my racial identity. So,
Michelle,
May I ask you something, Felicia? Because I kind of want to amplify what I feel Todd may be getting at. Because as I hear you talk, it still sounds like a very adversarial framework in which you're framing these relationships. And Todd, because I think when he was asking me the question, how do we get beyond that?
Everybody's got to change. So I don't know. I don't have the answer. This is an internal argument I have with myself all the time. The argument of humanity versus identity. It's a very hard thing, because my humanness was a birthright. This identity I have was given to me by other human beings, but it has real consequences. And I mean, I have 2 therapists right now. Like it is very emotional. It's very
double fisting therapist.
Yeah, I am.
Something, Felicia, that hit me about Trisha, even though I still have a question about it, which is that relates to what Randy said. And that's the comment you made was she let you be yourself. Mm-hmm. And that seems to be what stood out. Now, I think the question that would arise from that is, again, based on the things that Randy said, also is what gets you to the place where you even allow people the opportunity to accept you for who you are, to even get
psychological safety.
Oh, what provides the psychological safety though? Like what, I'm there's this like cynical reaction, right? Which I don't get. I can't say that I get. I wasn't my grandfather. Randy, do you want to say something?
Yeah. No, I'm thinking about, just us all being tribal in some ways. Mm-hmm. And, I'm thinking about growing up, and I grew up in a community that was mostly Jewish, and a lot of, not the younger people, but a lot of the older people stuck with their own kind. And because that was where their comfort level was. And because of like your father, Todd, a lot of them were either 1 or 2 generations away from, either the Holocaust or from pogroms where their families were attacked and murdered. So there was this real distrust of the other. So, and I'm assuming that what Felicia's talking about, and Andre, and I'm assuming maybe Michelle, is this kind of, am I safe with all these other people? You know, our history is of not being safe, and awful things have happened. Awful things have happened. So, you know, is it baked in our DNA to be so cautious and not be able to be ourselves, which in some ways, and I always fought against this, by the way, with my parents. I was told I couldn't date somebody who wasn't Jewish. And as soon as I got to school, I started dating non-Jewish guys. And I tried to date a Black guy who I thought was really cute, but he wasn't interested in me. But, you know, so I really kind of rebelled from that kind of thinking. But I get it. I get the anxiety that my parents felt and that your father felt and that you guys feel. And I wish it wasn't there.
Yeah, I think that's where your comment or question around connection comes from, Randy. You just wish it wasn't there, even if you understand it. And I feel very similarly. Michelle, how does this all strike you? This conversation.
So I get it 100%. It's taken me a lot of years to understand that I don't know what's in someone's, you guys hear me say it, or you heard me say it a lot, what's in their backseat. So I don't automatically assume something about a person. You know, I tend to ask questions. Like if Randy had said to me, oh, well, you know, I had my kids watch Roots. My first instinct would be, oh, so I bet you got a Black friend too. That's the first instinct. But before I say it, I say, oh, why, you know, what made you want to watch Roots? Because then the answer to that question is going to tell me if you were watching, you know, for edification, if you were watching because you, I don't know, enjoy, see, I mean, it would tell me a lot about you in your answers to that question. And then that would either allow me to open up a little or say, I'm going to put this person over here because that's probably not someone that I want to be friends with. And I do that all the time. I'm in corporate America, you know, like Felicia. And I've had people say things to me, and I look at them like, did you really just say that? Did you think that was okay? And when they say that, in my later years, because when I was younger and first in corporate America, I would say exactly what was on my mind.
Don't do that in corporate.
No,
Yeah. You learn.
Yeah, I was going to say I had some issues, you know, with some things back then, but as I've gotten older, I've learned how to say things and call attention to them to make the person think about, you know, what they've said. And a lot of times for me, I use humor because it's just my way. I think I'm funny, but it makes people think. But it wasn't always, you know, like that. So like I said, I'll ask questions before I come to a conclusion.
Can I, in terms of the meaning, I don't want to let this lie before we move on. And Marietta, I want to get your reaction to all of this as well. The common things you hear, I watched Roots, I have a Black friend, you know, I marched with Martin, you know,
with Dr. King.
I mean, so all of these things, right? In and of themselves, they can be positive, right? They can be, I mean, even Felicia in our one-on-one with you, you asked me, you said, do you have good Black friends, right? So you were asking me the thing that you see that as a potential sign of something inside of me. So those things clearly can be valuable. But at the same time, they get the eye roll, or you're right, or the reaction that you've shared. What is it about these things that creates the eye roll reaction?
How do you feel, Todd, when we say, when as a white person and someone says, I marched with Dr. Martin Luther King and things like that, how do you react to it? Like, because keep in mind, Mr. Andre says that racism is a white problem since it was created in the system by white people. This is not us holding on to history. We're being made to hold on because, like Felicia alluded to, people won't allow us to relinquish this identity that you gave us. So when your white brethren comes to you and they say things like, oh, yeah, I went to the March on Washington or whatever after the George Floyd murder, like, what does that tell you about your fellow white people and what could be done to alleviate this problem that comes from slavery and the Reconstruction?
Yeah, so I will give you my answer because you asked me. But I hate to assume what I think the reaction is, right? I mean, I would see potential positive in it, right? I mean, even with the, Randy's rabbi, I see, okay, well, I don't, if I imagine that context, I imagine that there's a lot of rabbis who didn't do that. I imagine there's just a lot of white people who didn't do that. Mm-hmm. And he chose to, right? So I see positive in those things. Or let's even take Randy here, there was initiative that she took to watch that with her children, right? In the confines of her home. Now she's stating it to you as a right to be performative is like, I need brownie points, right? I need reputation of some kind. And so to state it is clearly to say either I need reputation or I'm trying to give you a signal of who I am, right?
And what would feel personally performative to you? What feels performative to Todd with respect to race?
I mean, what feels performative is, I guess I just need to know the context of the impact that something like that had on them and continues to have on them, right? What I sense in the reaction, and I could understand a part of, but I don't think I can really understand. So I'm not going to have the same reaction as you, is, okay, you have a friend, but what are you claiming to know the Black experience just because you saw Roots or just because you... Mm-hmm. Just because you have a Black friend, that doesn't equate to necessarily having an understanding of what we went through and continue to go through, right? Andre and I had a friendship for almost 25 years before ever like mentioning Black or white or race. That's why we had started this show. I mean, I still can't believe it to this day that we went that long. There's a positive to that I didn't, I can't say I didn't see Andre for his color. I did see his color for sure. But the fact that we can just bond over just basic human things, this is the fight, Felicia, that you say you constantly struggle with, right? Humanness versus identity. But the negative part of it is I could say I have a Black friend, but until those, could I claim to know, other than what I had researched and maybe talked to with other people, could I claim to know the Black experience just because I had a Black friend? No. That having the friend or watching the movie doesn't necessarily indicate what you got from those things. It does indicate something though, right? There's plenty of people who just would not have a close Black friend, right? There's plenty of people who wouldn't make that effort to watch Roots. It says something, but does it say everything? No, I don't. So what I gather from your reactions is that action doesn't automatically indicate, as the person saying it might think it does, the manner, the degree to which they have understanding or have engaged in this thing called race relations in America, right? That's what I gather. That's what I intuit or feel. I see you nodding, so it seems like maybe that's on and I get that. I can understand that. Anyways, that's my.
I have a question for Andre.
Yeah.
Andre, before all of this Healing Race conversations with Todd and before George Floyd, before the pandemic, do you feel that you protected Todd from Blackness and Black things? And
you know what, Felicia?
I.e. the Black shit.
You know what, Felicia? Because I saw you react when Todd said, I still can't believe, and I said, I can believe we didn't have a conversation about race. Let me be real with you. So I always expected this friendship to fizzle out.
Really?
There is no one more surprised that I still know this man after 25, 30, now nearly 30 years back when we lived together. So there is no real reason to sort of bring up realness when you just always kind of expected that, because I mean, he's white, I'm black, so many differences. I'm like, oh, he's gonna just go ahead and do his little LA thing. This is, him being, the whole woke Californian, which by the way, because I am a Texan, and even though I'm a black Texan, I still think like Texas people. Texas are suspicions of, we're suspicious of that thinking, that whole woke Californian, right? But the friendship never fizzled out, much to my surprise. So then I'm like, well, if this isn't going to fizzle out, I guess I have to invest in it. So I invested in it. And that's when we started getting real.
It's something that a friend said to him. And this is just, I feel like it's an example of, it's just an example of some of what we've been talking about here for an hour now. He said, Andre, you said a friend said to you, white people didn't come to college to make friends with you, right?
They didn't. Some people didn't come to college to make. I'm not rich or anything like that. They didn't come to that school to social network with me. You can even look at the data now after affirmative action. All this data is coming out that when everything is equal, GPA and test scores, the schools always choose the wealthier student. And we all know why. The endowment. A school is nothing without its endowment. Mm-hmm. And Mr. Andre didn't have no money to give back then.
So I just bring that comment up to connect to expectations that exist around relationships with race, and the way, as Andre just shared, the way they then affect behavior, right? Because I totally understand that, Andre. Like if you don't expect longevity, I do the same thing. I do the same thing regardless of your color. If I have someone in my network and I see indications, that tell me this person's not going to be a long-term friend, they're not going to invest in the relationship, I don't invest, regardless of race, right? So
that humanist Felicia was talking about.
Can I react to something Andre said about people didn't come to college to make friends with me?
Please.
That's why I went to college. I'm sorry, but I went to college to meet people who are different from me, who came from a different background, who could do something to enrich my life. So I'm sad that everybody thinks you only go to college to make connections that are going to enhance your social status or wealth.
That's where we are now.
Sorry about
That's
that.
where the country is right now.
I had to burst out. Oh.
Yeah.
But this is why some parents paid the payola of getting your kid into a good school. This is why Aunt Becky from that show went to jail, right? For trying to get her daughter. Yeah. Right. Like all these parents went to jail for paying under the table to get their kids into the certain school. So
I'm sorry, but that is such a mistake. It is so wrong. It is just so wrong, because who you are in life and your success as a person does not.
Thank you for watching this episode of Healing Race, and stay with us for a scene from our next video.
If you want to see more conversations like the one you just watched, please subscribe to our channel, share this video with friends and family, and like and comment on the video below.
If you'd like to be a guest on one of our episodes and have an open, real conversation about race, email us at guests@healingraceshow.com.
And if there are topics you think we should cover, we'd love to hear them. So please email your ideas to topics@healingraceshow.com.
As always, thanks for your support. We look forward to continuing the conversation with you. Now, here's a scene from our next Healing Race.
So I've done a lot of soul searching over the last 20 years since he's been gone, and also since I've retired, and I'm not driven by meeting payroll for all of my employees, and I'm not driven by the expectations of my partners to bring in new business, but to look back at the people that I've known over my career, and over my involvement in the community and my neighborhood and my church and my family, just to get right down to the basics. What really matters?
Yeah, none of this matters.
No, my mom, my mom says something that my grandmother always says. And, no matter what you believe, what you call, God, the ultimate being, It's the same. When it is your time, my grandmother and my mother both say, one, how many U-Hauls have you seen traveling behind the hearse? None. Can't take it with you. And two, no matter what you believe about heaven, hell, higher being, whatever that is, when you get there, God is not going to ask you, Marietta, what did your neighbor down the street do with their life? Felicia, what did your mom's sister's cousin do? It's about what you've done, what good you've done.
To watch the rest of that episode, go ahead and click the video below me.
To see a different compelling Healing Race episode, you can click the video below me. We look forward to seeing you in the next video.